You know, the feeling. Someone asks you for a favor, and inside your head, you're already screaming, no. But your mouth flies open and says, sure, no problem. You hang up the phone and instantly hate yourself. That's not kindness. That's not generosity. That's a psychological disorder you've been mislabeling as your personality. People pleasers think they're just being polite. They're not. They are emotional slaves to other people's expectations. And here is the kicker. You built this prison yourself. You're the one sitting inside it, and you've locked the door from the inside. Let's look at a real-life example. A coworker asks you to cover their shift. You're exhausted, you have plans, but you say yes, simply because you're terrified they'll think badly of you. The result? You work through your weekend, you resent them, you resent yourself, and it doesn't even make your relationship any better. Or take another scenario. A friend asks to borrow money. You know they won't pay you back. You know you need that money yourself, but you hand it over anyway. And then you spend the next 3 months stewing inside every single time you see them. This isn't about the money or the shifts. This is about you systematically betraying yourself for the sake of someone else's comfort. And the most destructive consequence is that, over time, you completely lose touch with what you actually want. Because you've spent your entire life prioritizing everyone else's desires, pushing your own to the absolute bottom of the list. The statistics are brutal. Research from UC Berkeley shows that chronic people-pleasing is directly linked to elevated cortisol levels, anxiety, and burnout. In other words, you are quite literally killing your health just to secure someone's fleeting approval. But before I give you a concrete framework to escape this trap, you need to understand one thing: why this happens in the first place. And this is where it gets interesting, because the root cause isn't your personality. It's wired into your brain, literally. Chapter 2. The Root Cause, Biohacking and Psychology. Your brain is not a rational machine. It's a survival mechanism with a 200,000-year history. And to that survival mechanism, social rejection equals death. Not metaphorically, literally. Our brains process social pain in the exact same regions as physical pain. When you're afraid to say no and face the rejection of someone's disapproval, your amygdala, your brain's fear center, sounds the alarm as if you're being charged by a grizzly bear. This is called rejection sensitivity. And for people pleasers, this system is running on overdrive. Every potential conflict is perceived as an existential threat. You're not a coward. You're just running on outdated firmware. Now throw dopamine into the mix. When you please someone and get their approval, your brain releases dopamine, a quick hit of pleasure. This is exactly why people-pleasing is addictive. You get a fast reward right now in exchange for a long-term erosion of your self-respect. It's the classic trap of immediate gratification versus delayed rewards. But it gets worse. Psychologist Susan Forward, who wrote one of the definitive books on the subject, describes a mechanism called emotional blackmail. The people around you, often unconsciously, use your sensitivity against you. They play on your guilt, your pity, or your fear of ruining the relationship. And every single time, your brain capitulates, because the short-term discomfort of a confrontation feels more unbearable than the long-term pain of self-betrayal. And here is the hardest part, where this all stems from. Most people-pleasers grew up in environments where love and acceptance were conditional. If you behaved, if you were convenient, if you didn't cause trouble, you were loved. If you didn't, you were met with coldness, criticism, or the silent treatment. As a child, your brain made a perfectly logical deduction. To be loved, you have to be convenient. Now, you're carrying that software into adulthood, applying it to people who are perfectly capable of accepting the real you. But knowing the problem is only half the battle. I've seen countless people realize this dynamic for years without ever changing a thing. Awareness without tools is just educated helplessness. So let's get into a concrete, actionable framework. Chapter 3. How to say no without the guilt. First, swap the reflex for a pause. When someone asks you for something, your knee-jerk reflex is to immediately agree. Kill that reflex with a single phrase. Let me check my schedule and get back to you. This isn't dodging the question. It's exercising your right to an informed decision. You are creating space between the stimulus and your response. Your freedom lives in that space. Second, take a moment to check in with yourself. As you pause, ask yourself 3 questions. Do I really want to do this? Am I doing this out of fear or from a genuine desire to help? What am I sacrificing if I say yes? If your gut says no, you need to refuse. This isn't being selfish, it's just basic self-preservation. Third, stop explaining your no. This is where most people screw up. When you decline and immediately start giving reasons, you automatically open the floor for negotiation. The other person doesn't hear a rejection, they hear a condition they can work around. You say, I'm busy. They say, okay, how about Friday? You say, I'm short on cash. They say, pay me back whenever you can. Every explanation is a loophole you are handing them on a silver platter. Look at the people you genuinely respect. They don't justify every single refusal. They just say, no, I can't make that work. And they don't lose a second of sleep over it. Because they learned long ago that no is a complete sentence, not the start of a debate. An explanation is something you offer when you want to, out of respect for the person, not out of fear of their reaction. The difference between these 2 motives is night and day. In the first scenario, you are in control. In the second, your fears are running the show. Fourth, embrace the discomfort as a growth signal. The first 10 to 15 times you say no, it's going to feel awful. Your amygdala will be screaming. You will feel incredibly guilty. That's normal. That's just your nervous system rewiring itself. Discomfort isn't a sign that you did something wrong. It's proof that you're finally doing something right. But the most interesting part comes next. Once you actually start doing this, you're going to hit a wall of reactions from the people around you. And it will surprise you, and not necessarily in a good way. Chapter 4. The Ultimate Insight. When you start choosing yourself, some people will walk away. That is a fact, and you have to accept it. Some people were only in your life because you were convenient for them. They needed a person who couldn't say no, a human resource. The moment you stop filling that role, they lose interest. It stings, but it's the best spring cleaning your life will ever have. On the flip side, the people who stick around are the ones who are truly there for you. And the quality of those relationships skyrockets. Why? Because you finally stop playing a part and start showing up as yourself. People can sense the difference between someone who hangs around out of love and someone who hangs around out of fear. There is another side to this that almost no one talks about. When you stop trying to please everyone, you start making people uncomfortable. Not because you've become mean or cold, but because a person with real boundaries and self-respect acts as a mirror. You are showing others what they've been lacking in their own lives, and they won't always like what they see. The ultimate insight is this: you cannot buy genuine respect with people-pleasing. Respect is earned through consistency, through honesty, and through a willingness to say no when it's the truth. People respect those who stand their ground, those who cannot be pushed around. You know this firsthand. You don't respect people who blindly agree with every single word you say. Stopping the pleasing game doesn't mean becoming cold and detached. It means becoming honest. Honest with the people around you, and above all, honest with yourself. Start with just one no this week. Just one. No explanations, no apologies, just no, I won't be able to. And see where you are a week from now.